My stepsister told everyone I tried to steal her boyfriend. When I confronted her, she played the victim and blamed me. But then I found out she was the one secretly cheating on him. Hello, everyone. I never imagined I'd be sharing this story, but after everything I've been through, I need to get it off my chest. My stepsister, Claire, and I have never been particularly close, but we coexisted peacefully, at least. That's what I thought. She's always been the center of attention, the type who could charm anyone, while I've always been more reserved. When she started dating Jake, I genuinely wished her well. They seemed happy together, and I had no reason to interfere. But somehow, my name got tangled up in their relationship in the worst way possible. Claire started telling everyone that I was trying to steal her boyfriend. At first, I thought it was a misunderstanding. Maybe she misinterpreted a casual conversation or took a harmless joke the wrong way. But as the rumors spread, it became clear that this wasn't a mistake. She was intentionally making me look like a homewrecker. Mutual friends started acting differently around me, avoiding eye contact or giving me judgmental looks. Even family members, people who had known me for years, started questioning my intentions. It was humiliating. I couldn't understand why she was doing this. I had never been interested in Jake, and he had never given me any indication that he saw me as anything more than Claire's stepsister. Yet, Claire was relentless. She'd make snide remarks at family gatherings, loudly joking about how I was always around when Jake was. She even went as far as to tell our parents that she caught me flirting with him. It was exhausting having to defend myself against something so absurd. One night, I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I pulled Claire aside and confronted her directly. "Why are you lying about me?" I demanded. "You know I've never done anything like that." Instead of answering, she burst into tears, loud, dramatic, attention-grabbing tears. Within minutes, she had an audience, and suddenly, I was the villain. "I don't know why you're doing this to me," she sobbed. "I trusted you. I thought you were my sister." That was the moment I realized I was trapped. No matter what I said, she had already spun a narrative where I was the bad guy. And the worst part? Jake seemed to believe her. He wouldn't even look at me, his face set in stone as he pulled Claire into his arms, comforting her while I stood there, dumbfounded. The situation only got worse from there. Claire made sure that any time I was in the same room as Jake, she would cling to him, whispering in his ear, throwing me suspicious glances like I was some kind of predator. It didn't matter that I avoided him altogether. She would still find ways to catch me in moments that she could twist into something incriminating. If I so much as walked past him at a family gathering, she'd later tell people that I had been lurking around him. If he spoke to me first, she would accuse me of trying to manipulate him. It was insane. But the more I thought about it, the more it didn't make sense. Why was Claire working so hard to paint me as a threat? Why would she go to such extreme lengths to convince everyone that I wanted her boyfriend? Something wasn't adding up. And that's when a seed of suspicion took root in my mind. What if this wasn't really about me at all? What if Claire had her own reasons for creating this drama? I didn't have proof yet, but something told me there was more to this story than she was letting on. And I was determined to find out the truth. What I didn't know was just how shocking that truth would be. I had to do something. The rumors weren't dying down, they were getting worse. Claire was relentless, twisting every little thing I did into proof that I was after Jake. And the worst part? People believed her. Friends, family, even acquaintances who barely knew us were giving me side eyes, whispering behind my back. I could feel the judgment everywhere I went. I knew ignoring it wouldn't make it go away. The more silent I remained, the more it looked like I had something to hide. So, I decided to confront Claire directly. If she wanted to spread lies, she was going to have to do it to my face. One evening, after a family gathering where she had spent the entire time clinging to Jake and throwing me suspicious glances, I pulled her aside. We stood in the hallway, just out of earshot of everyone else. "Why are you lying about me?" I demanded, my voice low but firm. Claire crossed her arms and scoffed. "I don't know what you're talking about. Cut the act. You've been telling everyone that I'm trying to steal Jake, and you know it's not true." Her expression hardened, but then, just like that, her eyes filled with tears. Loud, Dramatic, attention-grabbing tears. "I trusted you," she choked out. "I thought you were my sister, and now you're trying to make me look like a liar?" The shift was so sudden, it took me a second to process. One moment, she was defensive. The next, she was crumbling like a victim of some deep betrayal. And just as I feared, our conversation wasn't private for long. Voices from the other room hushed, and within moments, people were peeking around the corner. "What's going on?" Jake's voice cut through the tension. Claire sniffled, wiping her tears with the back of her hand, making sure everyone saw. She just keeps making me feel like I'm crazy," she whimpered. "I know what I saw, Jake. I know she's been trying to get close to you. And now she's attacking me for saying something about it." I stared at her, stunned. She was spinning the narrative in real time, twisting my confrontation into yet another piece of evidence against me. And the worst part? It was working. Jake's expression hardened. My own stepmother, who had helped raise me, gave me a look of disappointment. "I didn't do anything," I said, my voice shaking with frustration. "Claire is lying." But it didn't matter. No one was listening to me. They were all too busy comforting Claire, patting her back, assuring her that she had every right to be upset. I was left standing there alone, painted as the villain in a story I never agreed to be a part of. The days that followed were unbearable. Any time I was in the same room as Jake, Claire made a show of clinging to him, whispering in his ear, shooting me accusatory glares. If I even looked in his direction, she'd sigh dramatically, as if she were the long-suffering victim of my supposed obsession. If Jake spoke to me first, she'd make a scene about how I was trying to manipulate him. It was suffocating. I started avoiding them both altogether. I thought if I stayed out of their way, Claire would get bored and move on. But she didn't. In fact, my absence seemed to fuel her even more. She started telling people that my guilt was why I was keeping my distance. That I knew what I did and couldn't face the consequences. It was insane. But the more I thought about it, the less sense it made. Why was she doing this? What was the point? If she was so secure in her relationship with Jake, why would she need to convince the entire world that I was a threat? And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about me at all. Claire was working way too hard to control the narrative. She wasn't just pushing a small rumor, she was desperately trying to make sure that Jake and everyone else saw me as the villain. Almost as if she needed a distraction. That realization planted a seed of suspicion in my mind, one I couldn't ignore. Something wasn't right, and I was determined to find out the truth. The more I thought about Claire's actions, the clearer it became. This wasn't about jealousy or paranoia. She wasn't just trying to turn people against me. She was hiding something. And I had a gut feeling that whatever it was had nothing to do with me and everything to do with her. I didn't have proof yet, but I was done sitting back and letting her drag my name through the mud. If she wanted to play dirty, fine. I was going to find out what she was so desperate to cover up. I started paying closer attention. Claire was always careful, always watching, but no one can keep up an act 24/7. And sure enough, cracks started to show. It began with small things. She was constantly checking her phone, smiling at messages she never let Jake see. She would disappear for hours without explanation, always coming back with some flimsy excuse. Once, at a family gathering, I overheard her in a hushed phone conversation, laughing in a way I had never heard her laugh with Jake. Something was off. But it wasn't until I ran into one of her old friends, Sophie, that I finally got the lead I needed. Sophie and I had never been particularly close, but she was one of the few people who hadn't blindly taken Claire's side. When I mentioned everything that had been happening, Sophie sighed and shook her head. "She's deflecting," she said. That word stuck with me. "What do you mean?" I asked, my heart pounding. Sophie hesitated, then glanced around as if making sure no one was listening. "Look, I wasn't going to get involved, but since you're already in the middle of it, Claire's been seeing someone else." My stomach dropped. "What?" "She's been cheating on Jake for months," Sophie whispered. I thought she'd stop when things got serious between them, but she never did. I guess she figured as long as she kept the focus on you, no one would suspect her. Everything clicked into place. Claire's over-the-top performance, her desperate need to make me the villain, the way she clung to Jake in public while secretly sneaking around behind his back, it all made sense now. She had been using me as a shield, throwing me under the bus to keep the spotlight off herself. I was furious. Not just because she had ruined my reputation, but because she had done it so easily, without a shred of guilt. And Jake, he had believed every word she said. I knew I needed proof. Without it, confronting her would just lead to another dramatic scene where she played the victim. I wasn't going to let that happen again. With Sophie's help, I dug deeper. I didn't have to look far. Claire wasn't as careful as she thought. A few social media breadcrumbs led me to the truth: flirty messages, hidden photos, even a picture of her and another guy at a bar when she was supposedly out with friends. It was all there, in plain sight, waiting to be found. Now, I had everything I needed. I didn't give Claire the chance to twist the story again. Instead, I went straight to Jake. I'll never forget the look on his face when I showed him the evidence. At first, he refused to believe it. He had spent so much time defending Claire, buying into her lies, that the truth hit him like a brick wall. But denial only lasted so long. With every screenshot, every time-stamped photo, his expression darkened. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. "She told me you were the one trying to ruin us." I let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah, because if she blamed me, you wouldn't think to look at her." Jake was silent for a long time. Then, without another word, he got up and left. I don't know what happened between them after that. I wasn't there for the fallout. But I do know that within days, Claire's perfect little world started to crumble. The truth spread quickly, just like her lies had. And this time, there was no way for her to spin the story in her favor. People started seeing her for who she really was. The sympathetic looks she had once received were gone, replaced with whispers of betrayal and disgust. As for me, it took time to undo the damage she had done to my reputation, but eventually, people realized the truth. Those who had turned against me came back with apologies. Some I forgave. Others I let go. And Claire? She tried to salvage what she could, but once a liar is exposed, there's no going back. In the end, I didn't get revenge. I didn't need to. The truth was enough.